My name is Emily, I'm 25, and the night they shoved the papers in front of me is etched into my memory like fire. It was supposed to be a family dinner laughter, food, polite conversation. Instead, it turned into a courtroom where I was the accused, and the verdict was already written. I had barely lifted my fork when my uncle slid a folder across the table. "Go on, Emily, sign it, do the right thing." My mother's sharp eyes bore into me, her voice dripping with disdain. "Family comes first, don't embarrass us tonight." Everyone's eyes turned toward me. My sister smirked, leaning back in her chair as if the outcome was already decided. My father crossed his arms, silent but commanding. Even the cousins and neighbors invited to celebrate leaned in, waiting for me to crumble. The papers lay open, blank lines demanding my signature, demanding I hand over what was mine, my grandmother's house, her savings, her final gift to me. Heat flushed my cheeks, my palms slick with sweat. They thought this was it, the moment I would finally bow, finally give up everything to keep the peace. My sister whispered loudly enough for everyone to hear, "She won't last 2 seconds without us. Just sign, Emily." Laughter trickled down the table. I gripped the edge of my chair, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. I could feel the humiliation tightening around my throat like a rope. But then I looked up, really looked, and noticed something they hadn't. A phone lifted just high enough, a tiny red dot blinking in the corner. They thought they were forcing me to sign in silence. What they forgot was that the whole room was already watching. I grew up in a house where love wasn't shared, it was rationed, and my portion was always the smallest. From as early as I can remember, my parents made it clear who mattered most. My older sister, the so-called star of the family. She was the golden child, the one paraded in front of neighbors with pride, the one whose picture hung in every frame on the wall. "She's brilliant, she's destined for great things," my mother would gush, clapping her hands as if my sister had walked on water. And me? I was an afterthought. At best, I was useful, the girl who cleaned up, helped with chores, kept quiet so the spotlight could stay fixed on my sister. On my 10th birthday, I blew out candles on a cake decorated with her favorite cartoon character. When I asked why, my mother shrugged. "It's easier this way, Emily. Don't make a fuss." When I graduated high school, I walked across the stage, searching the crowd for familiar faces. My parents had left early, my sister had a piano recital, and that was more important. I still remember walking home in my cap and gown, clutching the empty feeling inside my chest. Even my achievements never seemed to matter. When I won a scholarship letter, I ran into the kitchen, breathless with excitement. My father barely glanced at it before muttering, "It's not as impressive as what your sister will accomplish." The words landed like stones, burying my pride under their weight. Over time, I stopped trying to impress them. I built my own quiet world, reading late into the night, scribbling notes to myself, holding on to the fragments of worth that nobody else saw. And through it all, the only person who ever really believed in me was my grandmother. She wasn't flashy like my mother, nor boastful like my sister. She was steady. She saw things nobody else cared to notice. When my parents ignored me at dinner, Grandma slipped me an extra roll of bread and a wink. When I came home crying from school, she told me stories about women who survived storms stronger than the ones I was facing. "Strength isn't loud, Emily," she would say as we shelled peas on the porch. "It doesn't need to shout. It stands steady, even when the wind tries to knock it down." She taught me practical things too, how to save money, how to keep records, how to read the fine print in contracts. At the time, I thought it was just her way of keeping me busy. But now I realize she was preparing me for something bigger, something she must have known was coming. When she fell sick, I spent most evenings with her. I'd sit by her bedside, reading aloud, holding her frail hand. One night, she pressed an envelope into my palm. "Keep this safe," she whispered. "One day it will protect you." I didn't understand then. I only knew I'd do anything to make her proud. When she passed, it was like the last light in my life had dimmed. My mother cried the loudest, my sister clung to her, and I stood quietly to the side, feeling my grief swallowed by theirs. But weeks later, when her lawyer read the will, I realized what Grandma had meant. She had left me her house, her savings, her shares in a small company she had invested in years ago. It was shocking. For once, someone had chosen me. But my mother's reaction was immediate and vicious. Her face turned red, her voice rising. "This is a mistake. Emily can't handle this. She doesn't deserve it. It should have gone to her sister." My father nodded silently. My sister smirked like it was only a matter of time before I handed it over. From that day, the pressure began. Snide remarks, sharp reminders, veiled threats. "You know you're not strong enough to manage this, Emily," my mother would say. "It belongs to the family. Don't be selfish." My sister would lean in with her fake sweet voice. "Come on, just sign it over. It'll make everything easier." They thought I'd cave. After all, I always had. I had spent my whole life shrinking under their voices, hiding my worth, believing I wasn't enough. But Grandma had left me more than property. She had left me her belief. And even though I hadn't found my courage yet, I could feel it stirring. I knew it was only a matter of time before they tried to force me. And when that moment came, when the folder landed in front of me and the whole room turned to watch, I would finally have to decide, break like they expected, or stand steady like Grandma had taught me. I didn't know then how ugly it would get, how public, how humiliating. But I did know one thing. I wasn't going to sign. The real fight over Grandma's inheritance started the day the will was read. We sat in the lawyer's office, the smell of old books and polished wood pressing down on me. My mother had her arms folded, her face tight with confidence, while my sister lounged in her chair like a queen waiting for her crown. I sat quietly at the corner of the table, still grieving, still trying to make sense of losing the only person who had ever seen me. The lawyer cleared his throat, his voice steady as he read. Small gifts to charities, a few heirlooms to distant relatives. My mother's impatience grew with every word that wasn't her name. Then he said it. "To my granddaughter Emily, I leave my house, my savings, and my shares in Carter Holdings." The room froze. My mother blinked once, twice, as if the words were a language she didn't understand. My sister sat up, her mouth falling open. And me? I stared down at my hands, my heart hammering in my chest. Had I heard that right? Did she really mean me? The lawyer repeated it, making sure there was no doubt. "These are her final wishes, signed and notarized. Everything listed here is legally Emily's." My mother exploded. "That's absurd!" My mother must have been confused. Emily can't handle responsibility. She never could. This should go to her sister. She's the one who's capable, not... She jabbed her finger toward me as though I were some stranger sitting at the table. "Not her." My sister leaned forward, her tone sharp. "Grandma always said I was the one she was proud of. You must have tricked her, manipulated her when she was sick." I shook my Levantine head, words trapped in my throat. I wanted to shout that Grandma had chosen me because she trusted me, because she saw my strength when no one else did. But my voice refused to come. The lawyer remained calm. "Your mother was of sound mind when she made her will. She left no ambiguity. Everything listed is Emily's." My mother's face turned red, her hands slamming against the desk. "No, I won't allow this. She'll ruin everything. She's too weak. She'll sign it over, she has to. She owes us that much." I shrank into my chair, the weight of her words pressing into me like chains. For years, I had believed her version of me, fragile, incapable, undeserving. A part of me almost believed she was right. Almost. But the papers were in front of me, stamped and signed. Proof that someone Grandma had seen me differently. Proof that I wasn't as invisible as they made me believe. My sister smirked, leaning back in her chair with false confidence. "It's fine. She'll hand it over. She always does what she's told." The lawyer closed the folder with finality. "This matter is legally settled. Emily is the rightful heir. There is nothing more to discuss here." But I knew it wasn't over. Not with my family. As we left the office, my mother's hand clamped down on my arm like a vice. Her whisper was venom. "You will give this to your sister. If you don't, we'll make you. Do you understand?" Her nails dug into my skin, but I didn't pull away. For once, I didn't answer either. I just looked at her, the words stuck in my throat but burning behind my eyes. That night, lying in Grandma's room, I clutched the envelope she had once given me. I finally opened it. Inside was a letter, written in her steady handwriting. "Emily, I know they will try to take this from you. But remember, strength isn't loud. It is steady. Stand firm. The truth is already on your side." I pressed the letter to my chest, tears spilling down my cheeks. For the first time, I felt something stronger than fear. I felt resolve. I knew my mother and sister wouldn't give up. I knew they'd find their moment to corner me, to humiliate me, to pressure me in front of others. They had always thrived on my silence. But this time would be different. This time, I wasn't going to sign. The dinner invitation came a week later. My mother made it sound casual, just a family gathering, Emily. We'll have everyone over, it'll be nice. But her voice was too sweet, her smile too rehearsed. I knew her well enough to recognize when something was being staged. Still, I went. Part of me hoped I was wrong, that maybe she just wanted us to sit together for once without fighting. But the moment I walked into the restaurant's private hall, I felt the trap snap shut. The long table was filled with relatives, neighbors, even family friends who had no reason to be there. Laughter quieted as I entered, heads turned, and I felt the heat of dozens of eyes sweep over me. My mother sat at the head of the table, regal as ever, with my sister by her side. Both of them smiled wide, practiced smiles that didn't reach their eyes. Dinner itself was a blur. My sister dominated the conversation, bragging about her opportunities, her future, while my mother nodded proudly at every word. No one asked me about my life. No one even looked in my direction. It was as though I was a prop in the room, existing only to set the stage for whatever came next. And it came after dessert. My mother tapped her glass with a spoon, the sharp ting-ting cutting through the chatter. "Everyone," she began, her voice warm but firm, "we're here not just to remember my mother's legacy, but to do what's right for our family." She gestured toward my sister with glowing pride. "As you all know, my eldest daughter has always been the strong one. She's capable, intelligent, prepared for the future. And that's why she, not Emily, should manage what was left behind." Whispers rippled across the table. Some nodded, some exchanged glances, and I felt my stomach sink. My mother's hand moved to the folder sitting in front of her. She lifted it slowly, deliberately, before sliding it down the table toward me. "So tonight," she said, her smile sharpened like a blade, "Emily will do the right thing. She will sign these papers. She will give her inheritance to her sister, where it belongs." The folder landed in front of me with a dull thud. "Go on," my uncle urged. "Family comes first." My sister leaned forward, her smirk wide, her voice just loud enough to carry. "Don't embarrass yourself, Emily. Everyone knows you can't handle this. Just sign it. You'll thank us later." Laughter trickled around the table, quiet but cutting. My chest tightened, my palms slick against the folder. The humiliation pressed down on me like a weight, heavier with every second. "No," I said softly, barely above a whisper. The room stilled. My mother's smile faltered. "What did you say?" I raised my head, forcing myself to meet her eyes. I said no. "I'm not signing." Gasps broke the silence. Some relatives looked shocked, others disgusted. My mother's face twisted, fury breaking through her mask. "Ungrateful girl. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us. You think you're capable? You're nothing without us." My sister stood abruptly, circling the table until she stood over me. Her shadow loomed, her voice dripping with venom. "Sign it, Emily. Prove to everyone you know your place." I shook my head, my voice stronger this time. "No." And then her hand flashed out, the slap ringing across the hall like a gunshot. My head snapped to the side, my cheek burning, my ears ringing. Gasps and murmurs filled the air. Someone muttered, "Did she really just?" Another whispered, "This is too much." My sister stepped back, smirking as though the sting on my cheek was her victory. My mother's nod of approval confirmed it. To them, this was the final humiliation, the proof they needed to crush me in front of everyone. But as I straightened in my chair, blinking back the heat in my eyes, I noticed something they hadn't. In the corner of the room, a phone lifted just high enough. A faint red dot blinked steadily. Someone was recording. The whispers grew louder now, rippling around the table. "Is she live streaming this? Oh my God, people are watching." My sister's smirk faltered. My mother stiffened. For years, they had controlled the narrative, twisting every story until I was the weak one, the failure, the invisible daughter. But not this time. This time, the whole room wasn't just watching the world beyond those walls was too. I touched my burning cheek, lifted my head, and met their eyes. "I'm not signing," I repeated, steady this time. "Not tonight, not ever." The room erupted into chaos, voices shouting, guests murmuring, my mother snapping at my cousin to turn off the phone. But the red dot blinked on, capturing every second. The humiliation they had planned for me had just turned into their own exposure. And none of them had any idea who was already watching on the other side of that screen. The sting of my sister's slap still burned across my cheek, but it wasn't pain that held me in place. It was the silence afterward. Dozens of eyes stared at me, some wide with shock, others smirking, as if they'd witnessed exactly what they came for. My mother leaned back, satisfied, her hand resting possessively on the folder of documents. But then came the whisper that changed everything. "It's live." A cousin leaned forward, his eyes locked on the blinking red dot in the corner. "She's streaming this," he muttered. Heads turned, gasps rippled through the room, and suddenly the tension sharpened like a knife. Guests fumbled with their own phones, scrolling, tapping, realizing the truth. "It's on Facebook," someone said. People are already commenting. My sister's smirk faltered. My mother's mask cracked, her hand flying to her pearls. "Turn it off!" she hissed. "Now!" But the phone only lifted higher. The live stream carried on, relentless. Comments began flashing across screens. "Is this real? How can a mother do this to her own daughter? Stay strong, girl, don't sign." They had planned to humiliate me in front of a room of 50 people. Now their cruelty was on display for hundreds, maybe thousands. My sister slammed her palm on the table, her voice sharp with panic. "This doesn't matter. No one cares about a stupid video. Just sign the papers and stop making a fool of yourself." But the voices around us had shifted. Guests who had once egged them on now sat stiff, uneasy. A few even edged their chairs back, unwilling to be caught on camera as accomplices. My mother's fury deepened, her voice rising. "Emily, sign it! Do you want to destroy this family? Do you want everyone to see how ungrateful you are?" I stood slowly, the room spinning with noise and whispers, the blinking red dot steady as a heartbeat. My cheeks still burned, but my voice came out calm, clearer than I'd ever heard it. "No, I won't sign. Not now, not ever." The room erupted. My sister lunged for me, her hand reaching for the folder as though she could force the pen into my hand. My mother shouted over the chaos, her voice shrill and desperate. "You'll regret this, Emily. Everyone will see what a selfish, weak girl you are." But she was wrong, because everyone watching didn't see me as weak. They saw me standing against a wall of cruelty, refusing to bend. And for the first time in my life, the truth wasn't trapped inside four walls. It was out there, undeniable. The live stream comments flew faster. "She's brave. They're the greedy ones. Save this. Video, it's evidence." Evidence, the words struck me like lightning. This wasn't just a humiliation anymore. This was proof. Proof of every insult, every shove, every attempt to erase me. They had built this stage to crush me, but now the spotlight had turned on them. I looked at my sister, her face twisted in fury, her hand still clutching the folder. I looked at my mother, her eyes wild, her composure shattered. And I realized something powerful. They weren't in control anymore. I was. I pressed my hand against the folder, pushing it away from me, my voice steady. Grandma left this to me because she trusted me. And no amount of screaming, slapping, or live streaming will change that. Gasps broke out again. My sister froze, her hand suspended mid-air. My mother's mouth fell open. For once, they had no script, no comeback. And then, as if fate itself was listening, a new comment appeared on the stream, read aloud by someone near the phone. "This is Attorney James Carter. I represent Emily's grandmother's estate. Save this video, it will serve as valuable evidence." The hall went dead silent. My mother paled. My sister's face drained of color. Relatives shifted uncomfortably, now realizing they weren't just witnesses to drama, they were witnesses to a legal disaster. The red dot blinked on, recording their downfall in real time. And in that moment, I knew the night had changed forever. They thought the live stream would humiliate me, but instead, it had just sealed their fate. The room was still buzzing with whispers when the doors creaked open. Every head turned as a tall man in a dark suit walked in, his leather briefcase tucked neatly under one arm. His face was calm, unreadable, but the quiet authority in his steps silenced the room more effectively than any shout could. I recognized him instantly, Grandma's lawyer. My mother stiffened, her knuckles white against the edge of the table. My sister's mouth dropped open, her bravado cracking. "What is he doing here?" she hissed. The lawyer didn't answer right away. He set his briefcase on the table, snapping it open with 2 sharp clicks. The sound echoed through the hall, louder than the nervous shuffling of chairs. "I was contacted earlier tonight," he began, his voice even but firm, when a live stream reached my office. I thought it best to address this matter before more damage was done. The red dot on my cousin's phone still blinked, capturing every second. My mother forced a laugh, her voice brittle. "This is a private family matter. We were only clarifying a few things." Clarifying? The lawyer's tone hardened. He slid out a stack of papers stamped with seals. From what I witnessed, this was not clarification. This was coercion. This was harassment. And let me make one thing abundantly clear. These assets were left to Emily alone. The will is signed, notarized, and airtight. No one, not you, not your daughter, not this entire room, has any claim to them. Gasps rippled through the crowd. A few relatives shifted in their seats, suddenly avoiding my mother's glare. My sister slammed her hand on the table. "That's not true. Grandma always said I was her favorite. She wouldn't have left everything to Emily. She must have been confused." The lawyer turned his sharp gaze on her. "Your grandmother was of sound mind when she signed these documents. And after watching your behavior tonight, the slap, the shouting, the attempted public coercion, I think we all understand exactly why she entrusted Emily instead of you." The color drained from my sister's face. For once, she had no witty comeback. My mother's voice cracked, desperation replacing her usual icy control. "She can't handle it. Emily is weak. She's always been weak. I'm trying to protect her. We're her family. It belongs to us." The lawyer's expression didn't change. "What belongs to you, madam, is your own reputation. And after tonight, I'm afraid that's gone. The live stream is evidence. Every word, every action is preserved. If Emily chooses, she can press charges for harassment, even assault. Do you want that played out in front of a judge? Do you want the entire community to see what you've done?" The hall went utterly silent. My mother's face paled, her lips trembling. My sister looked down at her hands, her smirk long gone. The lawyer turned toward me then, his voice softening. "Emily, your grandmother trusted you for a reason. She saw strength in you when others refused to. Don't let them take that from you. You are the rightful heir, and you have both the law and the truth on your side." For a moment, I couldn't speak. My throat tightened, my chest heavy. All my life, I had been the quiet one, the invisible one, the daughter who never measured up. And now, here was proof undeniable. Official that someone had believed in me, trusted me, seen me. The guests began to murmur again, but this time the current had shifted. Their eyes no longer judged me. They judged my mother, my sister. The family who had spent years crushing me now sat exposed, trembling under the weight of their own cruelty. My mother tried one last time, her voice barely a whisper. "Emily, think about the family. Do you really want to do this?" I lifted my head, my voice steady. "I am thinking about the family. Grandma was my family. She believed in me when none of you did. And I won't dishonor her by giving in to you." The lawyer closed his briefcase with a decisive snap. "Then this matter is finished. Emily, I'll see you tomorrow in my office to finalize everything." He left as quietly as he had entered, but the silence he left behind was crushing. My mother sat frozen, her mask shattered. My sister's eyes brimmed with tears of anger and humiliation. And me, I stood taller than I ever had before. For once, I wasn't the one. Breaking under their gaze, they were. And the stage they had built for my humiliation had just become the scene of their own downfall. When the lawyer's footsteps faded into silence, the room seemed smaller, heavier, like the walls themselves had heard the verdict and were closing in on my family. My mother's face had gone pale, her hand frozen around the rim of her glass. My sister's eyes darted between the blinking phone and the guests, her confidence crumbling with every passing second. The live stream was still going. The comments rolled in faster than anyone could read them aloud. "This is abuse. She's stronger than all of them combined. I hope she presses charges." That night, I walked out of the restaurant with my head high for the first time in my life. My cheeks still stung from the slap, but it no longer felt like a mark of weakness. It was proof that I had endured everything they'd thrown at me and stood. The fallout began the next morning. By then, the livestream had spread far beyond a family squabble. Neighbors shared it in local Facebook groups. Old church friends sent it to one another with shocked emojis. Colleagues whispered about it at work. It hadn't gone viral to the world, but it didn't need to. It had reached the people who mattered most, the ones who had always believed my mother's stories about her perfect family. Now they knew the truth. At church, the stares were sharp, the whispers relentless. Women who had once praised my mother's parenting now shook their heads as she passed. "I didn't know she was like that," one murmured. How could she do that to her own daughter? The friends she once boasted to stopped sitting with her, stopped inviting her to gatherings. Her throne of reputation toppled, leaving her alone in the pew, clutching her Bible with trembling hands. My father, who had always lingered in the background, paid the price too. His contracting business relied on community trust, but after the video, clients pulled out one by one. "We just don't feel comfortable," they said politely, but the meaning was clear. Who would want to hire the man married to the woman the whole town now saw as cruel and greedy? The phone stopped ringing. Workers were laid off. By winter, his once steady company was barely hanging on. My sister's downfall was louder, messier. At her university, the video spread like wildfire. Professors whispered, classmates pointed. The girl who had strutted through campus as the family's golden child was now infamous, the girl who slapped her own sister over money. Her scholarship, already under review for slipping grades, was pulled. Her friends, the ones who had loved basking in her spotlight, scattered like smoke. She tried to spin the story online, posting long explanations, calling it a misunderstanding. But every time she opened her mouth, someone reposted the video with captions that cut deeper than any lecture. She returned home within weeks, defeated. I heard from a cousin that she spent her days locked in her room, scrolling endlessly, reading every cruel comment. The irony wasn't lost on me. For years, she had been the one shining while I was kept in the shadows. Now, she lived in that darkness, and I was the one who had stepped into the light. And me? For the first time, I felt the weight lift. The lawyer finalized everything quickly. Grandma's house was legally mine, the savings secured, the shares transferred to my name. Moving into her home was bittersweet. Her rocking chair still creaked the same way, her garden still bloomed with the flowers she loved, and her voice seemed to linger in the quiet halls. But instead of sadness, I felt steadiness. She had trusted me to build something of my own here, and I wasn't going to waste it. The community began to treat me differently too. Neighbors who had once looked past me now stopped by with small gifts, bread, flowers, even just kind words. One older woman smiled and said, "I saw the video. You stood your ground." That took real strength. Even at work, the shift was noticeable. My boss, who had always been cordial but distant, called me into his office. "Emily," he said, "the way you handled yourself calm under pressure, steady even when cornered, that's leadership. We could use more of that here." Within months, I was promoted, trusted with projects I'd never imagined being given. But the biggest change wasn't external. It was inside me. For years, I had carried their voices in my head. "You're weak. You'll never survive without us. You're nothing." I had believed them. I had bent under them. But now, every time doubt whispered, I remembered standing in that hall, refusing to sign, refusing to break, and the world watching me do it. Their voices no longer held power. My mother tried once to mend things. She showed up at Grandma's house, her eyes tired, her smile brittle. "We're still family," she said softly. "We can fix this." I stood in the doorway, the keys heavy in my hand, and for the first time, I didn't shrink under her gaze. "Family doesn't treat each other the way you treated me," I replied. Grandma knew that, and now I do too. I closed the door before she could answer. It wasn't hate I felt, not anymore. Hate would mean they still mattered. What I felt was distance. I no longer lived in their shadow. I no longer needed their approval. I had peace. The gossip eventually slowed, but the consequences didn't. My parents' reputation never recovered. Their friends never returned. Their business never bounced back. My sister never regained her scholarship, her spotlight, or her confidence. Every attempt to rebuild was swallowed by the memory of that red blinking dot, that live stream, that undeniable truth. And me? I thrived. I kept Grandma's garden alive. I filled her home with laughter she never got to. Here, I built the kind of life she always believed I could. Sometimes I sit on her porch in the evenings, watching the sun dip low, and I think about the irony. That night, my mother thought she was orchestrating my destruction. She thought she was forcing me into submission, making me small in front of everyone. But in reality, she staged the scene of her own undoing. The fallout wasn't mine, it was theirs. And standing here now, steady and unbroken, I know exactly what Grandma meant when she said strength doesn't have to be loud. It just has to last longer than the storm. It has been months since that night, but the memory still lingers like a scar etched on my skin. Sometimes I close my eyes and I'm back in that room, the folder of papers in front of me, the voices around me pressing in like a tide. I can still feel the sting of my sister's slap, hear the cold edge in my mother's voice, see the hungry eyes of relatives waiting for me to break. But when I open my eyes, I'm not there anymore. I'm here in Grandma's house, the place she built with her hands, the place she entrusted to me. The garden she planted blooms under my care. Her chair creaks the same way when I sit in it, but now it holds my weight, my peace, my future. For most of my life, I thought strength was something other people had, louder people, braver people, people my family chose instead of me. I thought I was weak, because that's the story I was told over and over again until I believed it. But I've learned something I'll never forget. Strength isn't about volume, or applause, or even recognition. Strength is standing tall when you're expected to fall. Strength is saying no when the world demands you say yes. Strength is refusing to sign when the whole room is watching. My mother and sister still live with the weight of that night. Their reputations never recovered. Their power collapsed. Their carefully constructed image shattered into pieces too. Sharp to pick up. I don't feel joy in their suffering. What I feel is clarity. They chose cruelty, and cruelty comes back heavier than it leaves. Do I forgive them? Not yet. Maybe not ever. Forgiveness is a gift, and they haven't earned it. What I do give them, though, is distance. I no longer chase their approval, no longer bleed to keep their image alive. I finally understand that family isn't defined by blood, but by love, respect, and trust. Grandma was my family, and in her quiet way, she gave me everything I needed to survive, not just her house, not just her savings, but her faith in me. That's the real inheritance. Sometimes I sit on the porch at dusk, the air cool against my skin, and I whisper to her memory, "I did it, Grandma. I stood steady." I hope wherever she is, she knows her belief wasn't wasted. To anyone who's ever been told they're weak, invisible, unworthy, listen to me. Their words are not the truth. Your worth doesn't depend on how loudly they praise you or how much they notice you. Your strength is already there, waiting for the moment you finally believe in it. The night they tried to force me to sign was supposed to be the end of me, but it became the beginning of everything. Blood doesn't make you family. Respect does. And peace? Peace is non-negotiable. I live in that peace now. And that, more than anything they tried to take, is my victory.